Oh man, we are getting close to the end, aren't we? After this, only 2 more episodes left. I have no idea what I'm gonna do with myself afterwards. So hello again everybody, it's another G-Waste discussion, you know how it goes, spoilers, all that, yada yada yada. Okay, so you know how I said how the last episode left me feeling very, like, kind of, not really the most excited for the next episode just because like it just didn't really grab me as much as the others. I still thought it was a good episode, but I think as we're getting towards the end, as I expect the episodes to like, escalate even more, that episode was basically just a setup episode for what was to come. So in that way I was kind of disappointed, especially because Soleta and Murine, it's another episode where they weren't together. But this was what I was waiting for so long, and I'm so glad it paid off well. So if the last episode was like the prelude to the big battle, this episode was the start of the big battle. The next episodes where it's just gonna be, we're in the end game now. Quiet Zero, Soleta, Murine are back together, and that's the main thing I want to talk about for this discussion video because it is like definitely the most, it is the highlight, absolutely. Soleta and Murine finally reuniting, and man, it has been at least a month. It's been a month and like 10 days ever since the divorce arc started in like episode 17, way back when. It was like May 8th, I think, when that happened. And going all this way, a whole month, like extra, and then another week or two, and then just of them not being together, it was oh man, it kept me so gripped, man. The yearning went so crazy, dude. That feeling of like, just longing for them to be together again is probably like accentuated just because we're waiting for each episode each week's, and there's 2 week delay for the after the episode where that happened. So I'm sure for like people watching the anime afterwards, they're not gonna notice it really because it's just gonna be like, oh, just keep watching till they get back together. It's gonna be that simple. But for us, oh, it is so satisfying to see. I'm so happy. And now I want to actually talk about like the lead up and just everything around that. So first of all, I really like how clear it makes it that Soleta and Murine are going to reunite this episode. Like, I know it was probably a given because in the last episode they had to go get the Gundam, and the Gundam is where it's in like the Benerit office or something like that. So like they would basically be near the same area, so of course it would happen. But I remember I was still kind of afraid, like deep down, and to see it happen, it's good. And I love how they show off that by this point, Murine is just fully shut down. She is just secluded in her own room, like just wrapping herself in a blanket, just completely shutting out the rest of the world, just lost in her own thoughts, which is like the perfect time for Soleta to just have a heart-to-heart with her, and just, oh, the talk is so good. But first, I want to talk about the little moments Soleta has with Guel, and the silly little duel they have. At first, I was a little confused when Guel challenged her to a duel because I was wondering where they were going with this. And then I saw them put on fencing outfits, and I was just like, oh, okay. This is kind of silly, but you know what? It's cute. I've heard it's a reference to the original like Gundam anime, and I can believe it because I think I saw a clip of that. What I like about this scene, though, besides, the silliness of it, I think at this point it highlights how artificial the holder title really is, because it's just given up in like a simple like fencing duel. Guel's like, well, I lost. And he doesn't just hand the win to Soleta either. He wants her to like earn it fair and square. Like I imagine if Guel did actually beat Soleta, he'd just say, hey, duel me again until she finally won. Or unless it kept on going for too long, in which case, like, okay, we need to cut the theatrics. But, he let Soleta do it fair and square. He gave her the title, and now Soleta has her good old color scheme again, because, you know what, that's her design, really. She has the holder fit. But seeing how Guel just hands over the title of holder back to Soleta, it really shows how much, there's such a good contrast compared to the beginning of the series where he held such honor and pride with the fact that he was the holder, but now to just give it up just then and there, and then just be like, man, what a fool I am. This is and this is kind of dumb, but like, yeah, it's another good move from him, and then it just opens the path for like, okay, Soleta is now technically once again the groom, so you know what, if that leads to a wedding or anything, I'm down. So getting to that scene itself, that is definitely the best part of the whole episode, and honestly, it's a contender for the best scene in the entire the entire series or this season. Just in general, it is just, oh, they did it so perfectly. The scenario where it's Soleta talking to Murine, while she's in her room, she's giving her the space, she's not barging in. Murine is not saying anything at first, but then they express a lot of her emotions through just the little mannerisms and little reactions she has to what Suletta says, like the shock in her eyes when Suletta says that she's gonna go to face Quiet Zero, how she starts gripping the blanket around her, the more she talks about how she's going to do this herself, and just the way it's shot, and you just really feel everything that Murine it feels in that moment. Like she tried so hard to protect Suletta herself, but now to see that it's come to the point where Suletta is now solving things herself, and just how she admits that like she doesn't know what to do really. Just like she can't be the one to inspire Murine, can't be the one to inspire Suletta in this moment. She does, because even she just feels too much guilt, and then Suletta just she doesn't like try to absolve her from any like guilt she feels, like, or try to like break it down as to why she shouldn't feel guilty. She just also states that she has also made mistakes just like her. You know, she acknowledges that in the end, killing those people, like, even to protect Murine, it was still something she cannot take back, and it's something she has to live with. But at the very least, meeting Murine and like actually like, you know, choosing to be with her was not a mistake. And just that line, that is such a good like a way for this conversation to play out, so where these two have like these two have made a lot of mistakes, but them being together was not one. And the way it lights up Murine like afterwards when that is said, it just hits so right, along with the fact that the second OP for the series is remixed or turned into like an orchestrated version for this scene. And I didn't get that at first, probably because it was in the morning and I was tired. But like hearing it again, it is just everything about this scene, like every time I rewatch it, it just hits all over again. And honestly, it's pretty poetic how in episode 11 it was Murine like talking to Suletta to get her out of her like own mental funk, and now at this time it is Suletta doing that to Murine 11 episodes later. Except it is now to like a much like, you know, even more serious scale, because things have developed this much. And like props to that shot of Murine walking towards the room herself. Like that is one thing I love about the relationship between these two, that Suletta gives Murine, like she gives her space and she gives her boundaries. She holds a lot of respect for her. You know, she sees her as someone with her own wants and needs, when throughout this series she has basically been seen as like a princess or like pawn to everyone else, just as like a trophy essentially. But Suletta is different in that regard. And the fact that, you know, Murine goes to see Suletta herself, and you know, we don't know what she actually looks like, we just see a shot of her legs walking to the door, and then it just cuts to just show her like basically at her lowest, just her hair's a mess, she's like barely like wearing much. And what makes this so powerful is that it is a Murine just on full display, showing Suletta just all her vulnerabilities essentially, and Suletta accepts them for what they are and just holds out her hand, to where Murine just in some of the most like intimate and like sincere like hand holding I've seen personally. And it's like, oh man, it's the romance is there, like just no doubt. It is like, it's like I've read my rom-coms, I've read like romance based series, but something about this just like it really cuts deep. And I think like a great contrast that Suletta and Murine have is that Suletta is a person who like seems very vulnerable at first because of how she's nervous, you know, she freaks out easily, but as the situation rises, she becomes like a very strong person, like in the moment, like she's willing to like make those risks. You know, she had her motto, like in high stakes situations she rises up to the occasion. But look, when you compare that to Murine, she is basically the exact opposite. She has this like aura to her, like she seems like she always knows what she's doing. She has a presence. I'm having a really hard time trying to word this, you know, like she seems like she always has, she has a presence that makes her feel like she's in control whenever she's just being around and doing things. But when things rise, that's when her vulnerabilities leak out the most. It's kind of like the opposite. Like it's a duality that Suletta and Murine share. And just to let Murine just expose herself to Suletta like that is And also just seeing how she looks too. It's like that is, I love the messy bedhead, but it also just it does such a good job just showing like how like much she has ruined herself, and like at this point she has tried to bear too much and do too much by herself, and you just see the kind of the mess that it left her with. And you like there are kind of like glimpses of this side to her throughout the series. Like you remember episode 4, you see inside her room and there's just a bunch of messy stuff everywhere, and like this side of her has always been there, but she's always been someone who tries to hold it together and not seem like weak in the eyes of others. I'm repeating myself, and it's just like, again, it all comes back to Suletta and how she just accepts Murine for who she truly is. And oh, this is like some of the most I've ever been attached to like a relationship in like a series. Like, oh man, like I know there are definitely others who are in a similar boat as me. It's just like, this is what I am here for when it comes to The Witcher Mercury. Like, there is more to the series I love than this, but it's like, you know how like in a series that you're into, there is one specific aspect to it that you grab onto the most, and like that is where your investment lies in, like compared to everything else. For me, that is very much Suletta and Murine, just as their whole relationship and just everything about them as characters. It's like there's still a bunch of other things like I love about the series, and you know I'm gonna bring up a little bit of it, but just for this instant, for this moment, I just want to just highlight how these two, like, they are what make this series what it is to me. Even through all the separation that they've had this season, the feeling of wanting them to be together, and just even when they're not together, you can tell they are thinking about each other in many instances. And it's like I just can't help. I just love it. Okay, it's like if I ever go back to the series, I'm probably gonna go rewatch the whole series once it's done from start to end. But just seeing how that relationship develops throughout the course of the series is such a major highlight. It is honestly just the right pace to me. Like, there are many things about this series that you can argue are fast pace, but everything about Suletta and Murine, it feels like it takes the appropriate amount of time each episode, to the point where this episode 22, it just feels so satisfying to see this moment come. So to get some more thoughts out about the episode before, you know, it's already been going on for a while at this point. I love the new rendition of The Witcher Mercury, because I think I talked about that last time. I want a new theme of that, and we got it here, and oh, it is so good. I love the OST of this anime or Gundam or whatever, and I can't wait for the OST to launch in like July. I love getting more of the side characters, like Felsi, like just begging to be involved in the story, just to join in as well. That was pretty good. I hope we get some good stuff of Chuchu and Felsi in battle. I think Martin's also there. I still don't know if Elan 5 is actually going to get in a Gundam. We'll see how that goes. Lauda, I guess, is going to be fighting Guel. I guess that's going to be Guel's last battle he's gonna have. You know how it goes. I'm not really that invested in that, but you know what, it doesn't matter, because Suletta got in her new Gundam and she is doing amazing. Like I'm pretty sure I said last video, like, listen, even without Ariel, she is still a phenomenal pilot, and that is just being shown right here. And you know, I'm not the biggest nerd with mecha, with, you know, the mechs, like I said before, but honestly, even I have to admit, okay, the fact that this Gundam has like a witch broom as like a weapon, essentially, that is pretty sick. I like how Cecilia charges Chuchu and the rest like a high price for her mobile suit, and that she asks to take Roji with them, because, you know, Roji knows his stuff. But one thing I like about Roji that you can notice even like earlier on is that while he prefers to communicate with his little Haro thing, but he also just doesn't like like getting too close with anybody, or like anyone talking to him right in his face. You know, he is very standoffish in that way, that he's I don't know if he's the right word there, you know, like he prefers to keep a safe distance and like communicate through his heart. Like, that's a cute little detail. Like, listen, this character doesn't have much, but they show off his personality well, and you know what, I love it when you're able to do that with characters, even if they don't have a lot of screen time. Another Suletta and Murine highlight is them in the room where Murine's like eating a tomato, and then they just say, "We'll grow more." So I'm pretty sure it's gonna end with them having some sort of like farm thing in Earth, and I can't wait to see something like that happen. And I love during the scene where Suletta is testing out the Gundam, once she actually reaches like Permit 5, Miori just kind of like lets her emotions out right there, just like, oh, thank goodness she survived. Like, I love how much she's keeping her cool there and just trusting Soletta. And then once it finally happens, she's just overjoyed to the point where she sheds tears a bit. And I love how much trust these two have at this point. Like, these two, they're gonna be an unstoppable duo. Prospera is so dead, you just wait. There are other things I could probably bring up, but they're probably going to become more relevant in the next episode. But for now, I am just so happy to finally get this episode. I could take it mentally easier a little bit longer, just that I got what I wanted, and I am so happy. And, you know, more Soletta Miori stuff. I'm winning. Earth House, nobody better die there, otherwise we're going to be a wreck. I don't think it's going to happen. I think we're going to have a happy ending. I'm betting on it. Will there be more after this? I am hoping for, like... I've been very adamant in thinking that they could wrap this story up in this whole season, but I am also a believer of, if we get I would also like another season that is just like, we could tell a new story in this world with these characters. We could still go further. Like, I don't know if it'd be like as good as like the story that's going on here, but I think there is still potential with so much about this series that I would love to see a season 3 anyways, or like 4, whatever. A point is another set of episodes. That's what I'm asking. You know what? I think there's so much you could do, man. But if it ends here, you know what? I still would have gotten a lot of what I wanted. And you know what? I'll take that dub when I can. And I'll still love this series regardless, you know? I think at this point, I'm pretty comfortable. I'm pretty comfortable in thinking that they're going to... I'm pretty comfortable in believing that the series is going to end in a satisfying way. But you know what? We'll find out in 2 weeks. And we'll see what happens there. Only 2 more discussion videos after this. And maybe I'll make a video, essay, maybe. Who knows what's going to happen? But for now, I will end things there. So, if you have your own thoughts on the episode, feel free to put them in the comments below. I love talking about this series so much. With that said, have a good day. Like, subscribe. I don't know what else you can do. And I'll see y'all next time. And have a good day.